It's 2 a.m. You're starving. You shuffle into the kitchen like a zombie with one goal: vanilla yogurt. You find it. You cradle it. You whisper sweet nothings to it. But then, betrayal. It expired 6 days ago. Do you eat it? Will it kill you? Is this how your autopsy report begins? Well, today, we're gonna answer the question every late-night snacker has asked. When does expired food actually become unsafe to eat? But before we get started, be sure to subscribe to the Weird History Food channel. After that, please leave a comment and let us know what other food safety guidelines you would like to hear about. Let's start by going back to a time when things were a little more wild and a lot less safe. A time before expiration dates and before USDA stickers. We're speaking, of course, about the lawless world of the early 1900s, where meatpacking was more nightmare than nourishment. In 1906, Upton Sinclair published The Jungle, a novel meant to expose the brutal conditions faced by immigrant workers working in the meatpacking industry. And while the book did gain attention, it was not for the reasons Sinclair hoped. Instead, Americans read it and said, "Wait, my sausage has what in it?" Yes, the food stole the limelight of the book, as Americans fixated on the fact that their sausage might contain parts that weren't actually pig. And we aren't talking chicken here, people. The sausage they were eating was filled with spoiled meat, dead rats and rat poison, sawdust and dirt, older, moldy sausage, and of course, the chemicals that were meant to cover it all up. Needless to say, the public was less than thrilled, and that included President Teddy Roosevelt, who felt people should probably not be eating rat for breakfast. Since he was no stranger to bare-knuckle reform, he quickly signed the Pure Food and Drug Act of 1906, which banned interstate commerce of misbranded or adulterated food and drugs. And with the dead rat removed from their morning sausage, Americans seemed satisfied to carry on with life as they otherwise knew it. But then, in 1937, a drug company made a miracle drug, where the miracle ingredient turned out to be antifreeze, which, as it happens, is not great for the old liver. So, Congress passed the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act of 1938, which required manufacturers to prove the safety of new drugs. As a bonus, it extended protection to food products, which laid the groundwork for labeling and safety regulation. And that was the end of the problem. Well, not really. Things stayed pretty messed up. Despite all the legislative action, there was still no federal mandate that said food had to come with an expiration date. And there still isn't. That's right, those Best Buy stickers, they're mostly just there for your comfort and are not in any way, shape, or form a requirement of the government. Believe it or not, the only thing the federal government actually requires to have a true expiration date on is infant formula. Because, babies, it's better than nothing. But the truth is that all those other warning dates you see on food are really just a friendly suggestion from manufacturers trying to guess when their product stops tasting the best. And yes, that even includes stuff like milk, which only includes an expiration date on the carton because the manufacturers, meaning the dairy company and not the cows, are afraid the product won't taste so hot if you wait too long to drink it. And they are not wrong. The tricky part is that there are so many different labels that it's hard to keep track of what they mean. But have no fear, Weird History Food is here to sort all that out for you. First, we have Best Buy. No, not the electronics store. That's spelled differently. Best Buy dates are nothing more than a mere suggestion, like a text from your ex. They're really just trying to guesstimate when the flavor or quality is at its peak. And you can definitely eat a product after the Best Buy date, though you shouldn't expect it to taste as good as if you'd eaten it the day before. Then we have the Use By, which is a polite way of saying, eat me now or forever hold your peace. You see, whereas Best Buy dates are strictly about quality, use-by dates are ostensibly about safety. And if you eat a food product after the use-by date, you're living on the edge. Next up is sell-by, and that one is really intended for grocery store employees. It's meant to help retailers manage their stocking and marketing efforts, and for the most part, you don't have to worry about it. In fact, there have been several efforts in the industry to render sell-by dates in a way that would be less conspicuous to consumers. But retailers aren't apparently apparently too worried about it. In fact, they kind of like the idea of customers throwing away perfectly good food and then buying more. Go figure. You've probably also seen freeze-by, which simply indicates the last possible moment to toss the product into a cryogenic sleep. As mentioned earlier, there's expires, which you'll only find on medicine or baby food because, again, babies. Keep in mind, none of these dates are actually hard cutoffs. They're really just estimates based on taste, texture, and safety. It's kind of like when a friend tells you they're 5 minutes away. They might be, but you also might be waiting an hour. In other words, despite all those labels, it's still really up to you to figure out if a food is safe. So how can you tell if a food is unsafe? Well, first, there are visual clues, the most obvious of which is mold. If your food is growing mold and you're not planning to use it to manufacture penicillin, go ahead and toss it. Then there's a weird coloring. So, for example, if your chicken looks like it's cosplaying as Shrek, you should definitely toss it. And yes, everyone's read Green Eggs and Ham, and Dr. Seuss is awesome, but that's a whole other thing. So please, toss the green chicken. Then there's the smell test. If something smells off, trust your gut, which of course means your nose. So if your dairy smells sour or your meat smells like high school gym socks, toss it. Last but not least is the taste test. And the reason it's last is because it's a terrible idea. Seriously, whatever you do not try to determine if your food is unsafe using a taste test. And that's because pathogens like Listeria, Salmonella, and E. coli do not announce themselves with a smell or a taste. So one moment you'll be saying, "This tastes fine," and the next you'll be in urgent care describing the pain in your intestines. So, what happens if you do eat expired food? Well, odds are you'll live, probably. If it's just past the best by date, then the worst case is that you're tasting sadness and stale cereal. Wait a little longer, and you're tempting the wrath of the upset tummy gods. After a few more days, though, you're playing with fire. First off, your body can reject the bad food from both ends. And that's not great because vomiting and diarrhea can cause dehydration. Plus, there's bacterial infections like E. coli, Salmonella, or Listeria, especially in undercooked or unpasteurized dairy. Finally, you could end up with food poisoning that can range anywhere from,
"No, I can't make plans that take me away from the bathroom,"
to,
"Can you give me a ride to the emergency room? And please drive like you're in a Fast and Furious movie."
and food poisoning is not uncommon. In fact, the CDC estimates 48 million Americans get sick from foodborne illnesses each year, which is 1 out of 6 people. At this point, you're probably thinking it's best to play it safe and eat only food that never expires. And no one could blame you. So if you want to avoid any risk, all you need to do is stock the pantry like a doomsday prepper and only eat foods with a shelf life designed to outlast the fallout of a nuclear war. For example, honey is basically immortal. King Tut had jars of honey in his tomb, and they're still edible. Uncooked white rice can last around 30 years in an airtight container. Dried beans might get a little weird texture-wise, but they won't hurt you. And powdered milk will last up to 25 years. Will it taste good? Nope. But will it kill you? Also, nope. Then, of course, there are frozen foods. Freezing stops bacterial growth cold, literally. So it makes the best defense against spoilage. Just don't microwave it while it's still in the foil, unless you want a light show. A 2013 Harvard study found that 90% of Americans misunderstood food labels, leading to billions of pounds of waste each year. So the big question is, how can you be safe but not paranoid? And the simple answer is, shop smart and make sure you check packaging for leaks, bulges, or tears. Then store your food properly. You know how your grandma and her friends would spend a fortune at Tupperware parties? Well, they did that because those expensive containers are airtight and helped their food last for days, especially when it's in the fridge. Then there's the way you handle your meat, and we don't mean like that. You sickos. We're talking chicken, steak, and pork. There are some simple rules. Always wash your hands after touching raw meat. Keep raw food and cooked food separated. And get yourself a meat thermometer. They're cheap. Salmonella is not. Finally, when in doubt, throw it out. Nobody wants to be the person who wastes perfectly good food, but nobody wants to be the reason their friends and family end up in the emergency room after a dinner party either. Anyway, in 2019, the FDA and USDA pushed for manufacturers to use 2 phrases only. Best if used by, for quality purposes, and used by, for safety purposes. The point is to help reduce confusion and waste. And even though not every manufacturer followed their lead, and not every consumer knows what those terms mean, hey, At least they're trying. If you really want to stay safe from food that's gone bad, the easiest way is to not overbuy perishables and to use the FIFO method, which means first in, first out. In other words, use stuff that's closer to its expiration date first, and you'll keep your own expiration date further away. So what do you think, and what's the sketchiest thing you've ever eaten? Let us know in the comments below, and while you're at it, check out some of these other videos from Weird History.